Okay, today we're going to be looking at a Laars Endurance Boiler. These boilers came out in the early 2000s. It was kind of unique at the time. This boiler is a direct vent boiler. It doesn't need a chimney, can vent out the side of the house. And this boiler also does hot water for the domestic hot water as well as your heating water. It's pretty much self-contained. There's a lot of these out around New England, Boston, up and down the East Coast, all the way into New York City. They used a lot of them for condo conversions because they were so neat and compact and they could fit in a very small area, very small footprint. We're going to be looking at this boiler today for a possible igniter replacement. Igniters go on these boilers about every, I'd say, 4 to 5 years, so it's a common service call that we get quite often. Boiler. It had an LO code displayed on the message center here, and the LO usually means that it's a failure for the boiler to light, so there's no ignition. And the most common cause of that is a burnout igniter. So we're going to go through the steps of taking out the igniter and replacing it. It's probably something the average homeowner could do if you have a little mechanical skills and some tools. You want to consider safety first. If you don't think you're capable, call a qualified service technician. You have to remove them. And then we're going to pull the front cover off. Now we're going to get down inside of the boiler. And we want to make sure that we want to go to the igniter. The igniter is probably the first thing we're going to check. So we want to look down here where the igniter is. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the power because we are dealing with 110 volts here and it could be hazardous. So we're going to pull this off. This is the wire for the signal to tell the control that the boiler has ignition and it's lighted. We're going to take the igniter out and we're going to check it. So we're going to disconnect this harness and we're going to separate that, and now we have the igniter assembly up here. Now we're going to get a socket and we're going to take these two screws out and we're going to drop this down. Of a socket, I think it's 11/32 SAE, or a metric is going to be like a number 8. We've used a deep well socket so we can get it all the way in. Now these screws are fairly loose, so we don't even need the ratchet handle, which I would normally use to take this off. So I'm just going to take the ratchet off and just use the socket and spin it with my hand. So we're taking this out. Put the nut right there. I'm going to take another one out. The other side out. We've got the two screws out. Now we're going to just slip the assembly out. We want to be very careful that we don't hit the igniter. And we're going to get out a new one. This is a new one. It comes packaged in a protective wrap. It's in rubber. Do not touch the igniter. Do not drop the igniter. This thing will break very easily. So we're going to take this one, and this is the new one. We're going to put the gasket on it, and the gasket goes only one way. So we're going to take that and we're going to insert that. Now the hole that's furthest to the back goes on the right side. So we're going to, again, stick it up in the hole. We're going to wiggle it. Do not hit it. Do not touch it with your hands again. And we get it up into the right position. Okay, now we're going to put our screws back on, put the nuts on, and we're going to tighten them up. And we want to make sure that we tighten them up, but we want to tighten them evenly so that the igniter doesn't get twisted or distorted in any way. If you get one of these flame rods and you see that it's got a point on it and it's like corroded and deteriorated, you have a problem with the venting of your boiler. The vent may not be pitched properly and there's condensate dripping down on the top of this, and that'll take out an igniter prematurely. So you want to make sure that the vent is properly installed. I think we have that on another video, but basically on this boiler, the vent needs to be, where it goes horizontal, it needs to be pitched slightly downward. Typically, most products, the vent pitches inward to the machine so that the condensate will drip back into the machine. That's not the case in this Laars Endurance. You want it pointed away from the machine so the condensate goes outside, not back on the boiler. So let's finish tightening this up. We want to make sure the gasket starts to compress slightly. We don't want to over tighten it and break anything, because we've got porcelain in here, and you know, it's durable, but it doesn't take any abuse. Okay, so we've got it tightened up. Now, just to give you a little demonstration, we're going to check this igniter, let you see what the igniter does. Its purpose is to ignite the gas as it comes into the burner. So we're just going to check this one and see if it is actually gone. I think it's still good, but give you an idea what the igniter looks like. So what I'm going to do first is come back here, make sure there's nothing, no wires are shorted out or nothing's touching anything. We're going to put the power back onto the boiler. Now notice on the display, the boiler, once it comes on, it's going to try to restart because we've cleared that lockout. Oh, no, we didn't clear it. So in order to clear the lockout, we have to hit the reset button. And the reset button is the black button right on the top. So we hit the reset button. Now the boiler should start to operate. It's going to try to ignite. It's coming back on, and there's a couple LEDs here. This green LED comes on whenever the gas valve is opening. So let's look at the igniter and see what happens. It should glow red. Okay, so the igniter is glowing red. That's a good igniter. We can put that igniter back in the boiler and use it again. Okay, so now we're going to shut the boiler off again. We're going to disconnect this igniter, put it where we don't damage it, because we'll probably package this up and save it for a emergency boiler, emergency use. Okay, we're going to reconnect the igniter wire. This is 110 volts coming into here. Any of you people who have meters and you're confident using them, you can always check to see if you've got 110 volts coming in to the igniter. And if the igniter is getting voltage and it's not lighting, it's probably telling you that you have an open in the igniter. We're going to reconnect the flame rod wire. That goes right on here. And we're all set. So let's turn the power back on. We've turned the gas back on. And we're going to wait for it to try to light again. When the boiler lights, you're going to hear a little rush of air. That's telling you that it's lit. And also this green LED will come on when the gas valve opens. Notice our water temperatures dropped down to 127 because we've been trying to heat up some stuff and it hasn't, and we had no fire. Okay, now the boiler just lit. If the boiler lights successfully, the green LED will stay lit, and it'll remain lit as long as the gas valve here is in the open position and there's fire, combustion. That concludes this demonstration of the change-out of the ignition assembly for a Laars Endurance Boiler. We hope it's been helpful to you. Check online for other videos that we've made on Laars and other high-efficiency boilers.